Right now, as you watch this, there is a voice in your head. It is reading these words. It is deciding whether this is worth your time. It is already forming an opinion about where this is going. And here is the strange part. You didn't ask it to do any of that. It just started. It always just starts. The voice has been with you so long that you have stopped noticing it the way you stop noticing the sound of your own breathing. It narrates everything. The commute, the meal, the conversation you replayed last night that ended 3 days ago. It judges before you finish a thought. It predicts outcomes you haven't yet approached. It surfaces fears in the exact moment you were about to feel something close to peace. It remembers things you would rather forget. It brings them back without your permission. And it speaks in the first person, which is the part nobody examines. It says, I am not enough. It says I should have said something different. It says, what if they don't respect me? First person, present tense, immediate, personal. Which is why you never question whose voice it actually is. Because it sounds exactly like you. But consider something. You did not choose the thought that arrived 30 seconds ago. You did not schedule it, draft it, or decide it was the appropriate thought for this particular moment. It appeared. The same way thoughts appear at 3 in the morning when you wanted sleep and received instead a running inventory of every unresolved thing in your life. You didn't request that inventory. It arrived. If the voice were truly you would have control over when it speaks. You would be able to silence it when silence was what you needed. You would be able to redirect it when it was heading somewhere you had no interest in going. But you cannot. Not reliably, not completely. The voice speaks whether or not you have given it permission to speak. And something that operates independently of your permission is worth examining more carefully than most people ever do. This is where something shifts. Because if the voice arrives without your choosing it, then the voice is not the source. It is a signal passing through you. It is weather moving through a particular landscape. It is not the landscape. And the question that follows from this, the question that most people live their entire lives without asking, is this. If you are not the voice, then what is the part of you that hears it? There is a moment in the gospel accounts that most people read past too quickly. Jesus is in the wilderness for 40 days. The voice arrives. Not his voice, something else's. And it speaks in the same register as the inner voice always speaks. Practical, persuasive, aware of every specific vulnerability. If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread. The voice knows exactly what to offer, exactly when to offer it. And what Jesus does in response is not argue with it. He does not engage the logic of it. He does not try to reason it into silence. He simply does not follow it. As though there is something in him that can hear the voice without being moved by the voice, something that observes the arrival of the thought without being identical to the thought, awareness that is prior to the voice, not produced by the voice, not dependent on the voice for its existence, something that was already present before the voice arrived and remained unchanged after the voice had gone. Ancient teachers who sat with the writings and the practices associated with Jesus came, in their most interior and most careful observations, to a consistent distinction. There is the word, and there is the silence from which the word emerges. There is the thought, and there is the awareness in which the thought appears. There is the voice, and there is the one who hears the voice. They did not always use the same language for this. But the observation beneath the language was always the same. Something in the human being is prior to thought, something that does not speak, something that does not react, something that simply sees. You have access to this right now, not as a concept, as a direct experience. Notice the voice processing these words. Notice it evaluating, agreeing, or resisting, forming its response before the sentence has finished arriving. Now notice something underneath that. Something that is watching the voice do all of that. Something that is not generating the evaluation. Not producing the resistance, not composing the response, just present, aware, still. That awareness has no opinion about whether this is true. It simply registers. It has been registering your entire life, before language arrived and gave the voice its vocabulary. Before the first complete sentence formed in your developing mind and the narration of your experience began. Something was already there, watching, not the voice. The one the voice speaks to. Here is what the voice does. It reacts. Every situation, every encounter, every word said to it or about it, the voice responds. It adjusts. It defends. It composes. It rehearses. The voice is in constant motion, constant response, constant negotiation with an external world it is always trying to manage. Now here is what the awareness does. Nothing. Not in the sense of absence, in the sense of completeness. The awareness does not need to react because the awareness is not threatened by what is happening. It is not trying to manage anything. It is not trying to become anything. It simply observes, with the patient and unhurried quality of something that has never been in danger of becoming anything other than what it is. The voice is always trying to secure something. The awareness already has everything it needs. And the awareness has been there your entire life, underneath the voice, behind the narration, before the judgment arrived. There is a particular quality of silence that contemplative teachers describe with a consistency across traditions that suggests they are pointing at something real rather than something invented. They describe it as the silence beneath thought, not the silence that exists when the voice temporarily runs out of things to say. The silence that is always present underneath the voice. The ground the voice emerges from and returns to. Jesus, in the accounts of the people who knew him most closely, moved in and out of that silence with a fluency that astonished the people around him. He would leave the crowd, go somewhere without company, stay there, and return different in a way nobody could quite describe. Not having gained information, not having composed arguments, having returned to something. Something that required no words to access and lost nothing in the absence of words. The one who sees without speaking. The one who remains when the voice has finished. You have been listening to the voice your entire life. You have taken its assessments as evidence, its fears as warnings, its narratives as facts. You have built enormous portions of your understanding of yourself from the testimony of something that arrived without your permission and speaks without your control. And underneath all of it, unchanged, patient, entirely uninterested in being noticed. The awareness has been watching the voice tell you who you are, watching you believe it, watching you carry conclusions built from a narrator you never once asked to verify its credentials. So here is the only thing worth sitting with after everything else. Not a conclusion, not an answer, just a question that does not resolve cleanly. The voice has a name for you. It has been using that name your entire life. It has constructed an entire identity from that name, from the history attached to it, from the fears and the hopes and the accumulated evidence of a single human life. But the awareness underneath the voice, has no name, has never needed one, was present before the name was given, and will be present after the voice has finished speaking. So the question is not whether the voice is telling you the truth. The question is simpler and older and far more unsettling than that. Between the voice that speaks and the awareness that watches, which one are you?